Hi, I'm Courtney.
Hi, and I'm Haley. Today we're teaming up to teach you a perfect recipe to use to cozy up in these cold winter months.
For this cooking class, we will be making chicken chili posole. This recipe is full of flavor and it's a nutritionally well-balanced dish. It's low in calories and in fat, and it contains a lot of fiber.
So let's get started. These are some of the ingredients we're going to use today. We're going to start with one 10-ounce can of whole green chilies. This tends to be about 5 large green chilies. We're going to have one red onion, and then we have about 6 to 7 medium-sized tomatillos. You can see that these are already peeled, but this is peeled, and we'll talk about that later. And today we're only using 7. We have 4 teaspoons of minced garlic. You can see that this can is roasted. We're using that. It just adds a little bit of flavor, but you can use whatever minced garlic that you have on hand. It'll work perfectly. And then we have about 1.5 teaspoons of ground cumin. This may sound like a lot, but we found it to be perfect for this dish. And then 2 tablespoons of olive oil that we'll put in the skillet to saute all of these ingredients.
We will also be using 30 ounces of hominy. With that, we've also got about a pound of chicken, and you can use raw, rotisserie, or any kind of chicken that you have on hand or that you want to use. Today we're going to be using the canned chicken just because it's quick and easy. We've also got reduced sodium chicken broth, and so this is good for you. It's a heart healthy option for you. Rather than the regular chicken broth. We've also got the cilantro here, and we'll use about a handful of that. It comes out to about a half a cup, and then we'll also be using 1 lime. And if you don't have a lime, you can also use lime juice, and that'll be about 2 tablespoons. So before you get started, we want to make sure that all countertops are cleaned and sanitized.
Don't forget to wash your hands.
That too, that's a good tip as well. We want to make sure we do this just to keep your food and your family safe. We also want to make sure that we wash all produce just for the same reason, to keep it clean and keep it safe.
Since we're going to be working together, we're both going to start off with our own cutting board and knife.
So I'm going to start off by chopping the onion, and when doing this, we're just going to be chopping it instead of dicing it because we will be putting it in a blender later. So it doesn't have to be perfect.
You don't want to work too hard.
Right. So we'll start off by cutting it in half, and then we're going to cut off the ends.
And everyone probably does it a little differently, but you can do whatever is best for you.
And then I like to peel it after I cut it just because it makes it a little bit easier if you cut it first to get a handle on what you're peeling. And then we will continue to cut.
What if I wanted to use a yellow onion?
You could do that. You could do that as well. The red onion that we have right here is a sweet onion. And so it brings out the flavor really nicely with the cumin. You can also use a yellow onion or a white onion. Those are typically used in cooking. The red one, actually, you see it more in salads and dishes like that. We decided to use it in our dish today. We found it paired really nicely, but you can actually use any kind of onion that you have on hand. And so now I'm just continuing, and I'm going to do the same thing I did on the first one and continue with the second half of the onion. Alrighty, I've got that done here.
So I'll go ahead and get started with our canned green chilies. Any of our cans that we're going to use today, the chilies, the hominy, the chicken, you want to make sure you drain it before we're going to put it into our dish. So I'm going to chop these up as well. And as she mentioned earlier, we're putting everything into a blender, so it doesn't really matter how perfect it is. So I'm just gonna kind of slice these. Okay, so I'm gonna finish chopping these up. And you can buy these already diced, so that'll just save some time in a can. Or you can buy a fresh chili pepper if you prefer. Just something to be cautious about when you buy a fresh chili pepper is that the seeds are going to be in those chili peppers. So you want to make sure you de-seed them Otherwise, your posole might be a little spicy. Okay, so for our tomatillos, you want to make sure that they're already peeled and washed. So I've already peeled and washed these, but we're going to peel this one. So you want to make sure you get that layer off before you cut it. And then Courtney's going to go wash this for me while I dice the other ones. So we're using 7, and you can use 6 to 8, and you can see all of ours are all different sizes. So whatever you prefer, whatever you can find. I'm going to cut off the stems, and then the smaller they are, the quicker they're going to saute. So I'm just going to kind of cut them randomly because, like Courtney has mentioned, they're all going to go in the blender, so it doesn't really matter. This will bring a nice green color to our dish as well. So you're going to see that our final product is going to be really colorful and flavorful. Now we're going to get our skillet ready to saute. You want to make sure that you have a mixing spoon. So first we're going to turn on our stovetop to about a medium heat. We're going to need 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Okay, so we have that 2 ready. We're going to let that heat up for a while. Okay, so our skillet's ready. We're going to add our green chilies in here. Get all of that in there. And then our tomatillos. So these are both great ingredients because they contain a lot of antioxidant properties.
And what do you mean by antioxidant?
So these properties help keep our bodies maintain our overall health, and they help fight off diseases and illnesses, which is great. Who wants to get sick? And then these also contain a lot of fiber, which keeps our digestive system on track. So we're going to saute these for about 10 minutes until they're like lightly browned. Okay, so our pan has started to sizzle. It's been about 10 minutes, so we're ready to move on to the next step.
And so now I'm going to add the onion. So just scrape that in there. We're also going to add the garlic and cumin at this time. And so, like Haley said, we use the roasted garlic, but you can use any. And we have 4 tablespoons of that.
Teaspoons, I think.
Oh, teaspoons. Yes, you are correct.
And when just adding the onions to the skillet, it just saves on cleanup since we're only using 1 pan, which is really nice at the end.
So that's my 3rd one. I've got 1 more to do. Okay, so 4 teaspoons. And then we've got the cumin, and we have 1.5 teaspoons. And I'm using a half here, so you'll see me do it 3 times. Just dash that all over your ingredients. Okay, and we're gonna let this sizzle for about another 10 minutes, just till it gets that brown color with the onions and the garlic in there. So cumin is a great spice to add to this dish. It brings a lot of flavor, and it's a strong spice, so you want to make sure that you don't add too much. But it also has some of those antioxidant properties and some vitamins and minerals in it, and so it has a wide variety of different things it can do. And one of those, like Haley was talking about earlier, it helps keep your digestive tract moving, and it also can help control your blood sugar and your cholesterol levels, and that's just to name a few.
So as that's sauteing, I'm going to go ahead and get our cilantro ready for our blender later on. So I'm just going to chop this up. It says about a handful, but we found that to be about half a cup. So I think this will be just enough, perfect for it. So I'll just put that in there. Okay, so we're going to get our blender ready. So we're going to need 1 cup of this chicken broth. And since this is a liquid, you want to make sure to use a liquid measuring cup to be more accurate on your measurements. So we're going to measure this to about 1 cup.
And while she's doing that, I'm continuing over here to keep sauteing the ingredients we have in the skillet.
So we'll pour that into there. And then we have our lime previously. So this is a handheld lime squeezer, but if you don't have one, that's perfectly fine. You can just use your muscles and do it yourself. So I'm just going to squeeze this over here. And if you don't have a lime and you have lime juice instead, it's about 2 tablespoons. So that'll work perfectly. we got that half. I'm gonna do this half as well. And lime is just a great flavor. It just brings a little tangy flavor. Then we're going to add our cilantro that we just chopped up.
Okay, our ingredients are now ready. They have been sauteed. And if you see here, you can look at the onion and see that it has turned color. It's a little bit pink now rather than purple or red to begin with. And be very careful when you're transferring these ingredients into the blender because this is a hot skillet and we don't want to have any accidents. And instead of sauteing, you could have roasted your ingredients in the oven. We chose to saute just for time, and you could just put them on a cooking platter and put them in the oven, so you could do that as well, just as long as you get your ingredients cooked and roasted all the way through. So now we're going to put this blender up here. Let's see, there we go. And every blender has different settings, so just make sure whenever you are putting your blender on that you're careful with any sharp objects and that the lid is on and secured tight because we don't want any messes. Do you think that looks good?
Mm-hmm. It's getting that greener color with a little red tint to it. So it looks good.
And now we're going to transfer this into a pot.
Get out of your way.
And so we'll start with our pureed mixture.
And I'm going to go ahead and turn that stove top back to like a medium heat. So now we're going to add the rest of our ingredients. So we have our canned chicken. We have 3 cans. It turns out to be about 13 ounces, so you can do as much chicken as you want or as little chicken as you want. So we're going to put these in here.
And typically around a pound of chicken should be okay for this dish.
And like we mentioned earlier, anything that's canned, you want to drain it. Put that in there. Our hominy, this is 30 ounces, put all of that. And then finally, our chicken broth. So the recipe calls for 3 cups of broth in the stock pot. And like we used 1 cup earlier in our blender, we don't have to measure the rest because we have 3 in here. So we're just going to pour the rest of that in here.
Make sure you pour slowly too because we do have hot ingredients in the pot and you don't want it to splash up.
So we got all of that in there. And then I'm going to just get a spoon and mix it a little around. And then we're going to put our lid back on top and we're going to let this simmer for about 15 minutes or something, just until we think it's ready to be done. Oh, you want to make sure that if you are using raw chicken instead of this canned chicken, that it may be a little longer than 15 minutes. You just want to make sure that chicken is thoroughly cooked.
Make sure there's no pink in the middle.
Yeah. Adding chicken is a great way to add some protein into your diet. Chicken is a lean white meat, so this has less calories and fat than those darker meats. Okay, so our dish is finally ready. It's been about 15 minutes, so we're going to go ahead and put it into our dish to be ready to eat. I think it looks really good.
It smells delicious.
And this makes about 6 to 8 servings. It just kind of depends on how much and how big you want your bowl to be. So, ready to eat. And then we have already prepared our garnishes right here in front of us. We have radishes and avocado,
shredded cabbage, lime, and cilantro.
So what do you want to put on it?
I want to do an avocado.
Go ahead
We
and
might
put
as
some
well,
radish.
since we already prepared all of it, we'll put a little bit of each, but you can choose which one you want to do and what garnishes you would like to have on your dish.
You don't have to have any if you don't want.
And we're all done. So thank you so much for joining us for this cooking video today. This meal makes for a great option on a cold night, and we really hope you enjoy it.
For more delicious and nutritious recipes, be sure to click the link below and subscribe to RHN WIC for more recipes.